Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. People think the countryside is peaceful. That's the lie. They imagine open fields, quiet roads, stars in the sky, and fresh air. What they don't think about is distance. How long it takes for help to arrive. How easy it is to disappear when no one is close enough to hear you. I learned that the summer my family moved to a farmhouse that shouldn't have been lived in anymore. It was my father's idea. He said we needed a change. Something slower. Something real. He found the place through a friend of a friend, cheap, isolated, and surrounded by acres of unused farmland. No neighbors for miles. Just dirt roads, tall grass, and a tree line that seemed to go on forever. The first night there, the silence felt wrong. Not quiet, empty. No distant traffic. No sirens. No voices. Just wind moving through crops and insects buzzing in patterns that never felt random. I slept poorly, waking up several times with the feeling that someone was standing outside my window. The second night, I heard footsteps. Not inside the house. Outside. Slow crunching sounds moving through gravel, circling the building. I lay frozen, listening as they stopped beneath my window. Whoever it was stood there for a long time. Too long. When I finally worked up the courage to look, there was no one there. Just footprints. Barefoot. Leading away from the house and disappearing into the tall grass. My parents told me it was probably a local farmer. Someone passing through. That answer didn't sit right. Farmers didn't wander barefoot at midnight. Things escalated quickly after that. We started finding objects moved around the property. Tools left in strange places. Gates opened that we always kept shut. One morning, my mother found a dead crow nailed to the side of the barn. No explanation. No footprints. My father took it down without saying a word, but I saw his hands shaking. The locals avoided us. When we drove into the nearest town, barely more than a gas station and a diner, conversation stopped when we walked in. People stared just long enough to make you uncomfortable, then looked away like they'd seen something they weren't supposed to. An old man at the diner finally said something. "You shouldn't stay out there," he muttered while stirring his coffee. My father laughed awkwardly and asked why. The man didn't look up. "Land remembers," he said. That was all. The first real incident happened 2 weeks later. I woke up to my dog barking hysterically. Not his normal warning bark, this was panic. Fear. I ran to the window and saw him straining at his chain, growling into the darkness beyond the floodlight. Then the barking stopped. Abruptly. Too abruptly. When we went outside, the chain was still attached to the post. But my dog was gone. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Just deep impressions in the dirt, like something heavy had been dragged away. That night, I heard whispering from the fields. Low voices, carried by the wind. Not words I could understand, just murmuring, overlapping, constant. I lay in bed with my pillow pressed over my ears, trying not to cry. The next morning, my mother found writing scratched into the dirt near the house. Crude. Uneven. "You're on it now." My father wanted to leave. That surprised me. He was stubborn, the type who hated admitting mistakes. But whatever confidence he'd had about the place was gone. The problem was, the truck wouldn't start. Battery was dead. Then the spare. No signal on our phones. The nearest neighbor was miles away, down a dirt road that cut through the woods. My father decided to walk it. He never came back. We waited all day. As the sun dipped low, the whispering started again, louder this time. Closer. The tall grass swayed even though there was no wind. At dusk, we saw figures moving at the edge of the fields. Not running. Not hiding. Just watching. My mother locked the doors and pulled us into the living room, clutching a kitchen knife like it might help. The house groaned as night fell, old wood settling, walls creaking like something was shifting inside them. Then came the knocking. Not at the door. From the walls. Slow. Deliberate. Moving from room to room. They were testing the house. Learning it. The whispering turned into chanting. Rhythmic. Hungry. I realized then that the locals weren't afraid of the land. They respected it. They fed it. Just before midnight, the knocking stopped. The silence that followed was worse. We heard the front door open. Footsteps crossed the living room. My father's voice called my mother's name. She stood up. I screamed for her not to go. She hesitated, just long enough to turn her head toward me. And then something grabbed her from behind and dragged her into the darkness. The door slammed shut. I ran. Out the back. Into the fields. Not caring where. Not caring if they followed. I don't remember how long I ran, only that I collapsed near the road as dawn broke. A passing driver found me. The police searched the property. They found no signs of my parents. No signs of anyone else. The farmhouse burned down 3 days later. Electrical fire, they said. The locals never talked about it. Years later, I drove past the land again. The fields were untouched. Untamed. And carved into the dirt near the road were the same words I'd seen before. It's still ours. I took the job because I needed the money, not because I wanted to live in the countryside. That should have been my first mistake. The listing said remote caretaking position. No neighbors. No distractions. Good pay. Free housing. All I had to do was maintain an old estate while the owners were away indefinitely. I asked where the property was. The man on the phone paused before answering. Far enough, he said. When I arrived, I understood what he meant. The road turned to gravel. Then dirt. Then something closer to a suggestion than a road. Trees pressed in from both sides, thick and unmoving, blocking out the sky. My GPS lost signal 15 minutes before I reached the gate. The gate wasn't locked. It was chained shut from the inside. I honked. Nothing. I was about to get back in my car when I noticed the sign nailed to the wood. Do not use horn after sunset. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. I pushed the gate open by hand and drove through, chaining it behind me without knowing why. The house sat deep in the property, a massive, decaying farmhouse surrounded by overgrown fields and a sagging barn. Windows dark. No lights. No sound. The silence out there wasn't peaceful. It felt enforced. Inside the house, everything was already furnished. Dusty, but lived in. The fridge was stocked. The generator was running. A printed set of rules sat on the kitchen table. There were only 3. Lock all doors before dark. Do not answer knocking at night. If you hear your name called outside, ignore it. I laughed at first. Then I realized the rules weren't jokes. They were written in different handwriting. The first night, I followed them anyway. At sunset, the air changed. The wind died. The insects went quiet. Even the house seemed to tense, wood popping softly like it was bracing itself. At exactly 9:12 p.m., something knocked on the front door. 3 slow taps. I froze. The second rule echoed in my head. The knocking came again. Then a voice. Hello, a woman called. My car broke down. Please? She sounded young. Scared. Breathless. Every instinct I had told me to help. I stepped toward the door, then noticed something through the window. No headlights. No car. Just darkness beyond the porch light. "I can see you inside," the voice said, now closer. "Please." I backed away. The knocking stopped. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I found footprints circling the house. Barefoot. Too many to count. I drove into town to ask about the property. The town consisted of one store and a gas pump that looked like it hadn't worked in years. The clerk went quiet when I mentioned the estate. "You staying out there?" he asked. I nodded. His jaw tightened. "Don't," he said. "No one comes out here after dark. And no one goes out there unless they have to." I asked why no one called the police. He laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Because they won't come," he said. "Not anymore." That night, the knocking returned. This time, it wasn't just the front door. It was the windows. All around the house. Slow. Patient. Testing. Then they started calling my name. My exact name. Voices overlapping. Men. Women. Children. Some of them sounded familiar. My mother's voice nearly broke me. I stayed on the floor of the living room, hands over my ears, whispering for morning to come. At sunrise, everything stopped. No footprints. No signs. Just silence. On the fourth night, the generator failed. The lights went out. The knocking started immediately. Harder this time. Angrier. The door shook in its frame. A voice spoke calmly through the wood. "You broke the rules." Something heavy slammed against the side of the house. I ran. Out the back door. Through the fields. Into the woods. I didn't look back. I reached the road at dawn, bleeding and exhausted. When I told the police, they exchanged looks. One of them finally said, "That property's been empty for years." I asked about the caretaker position. There was no listing. No owner. No estate manager. They drove me back anyway. The house was gone. Nothing but a clearing and scorched earth. The officer guiding me back to the car stopped suddenly. "Do you hear that?" he asked. I listened. Knocking. Coming from the ground beneath our feet. The people in the countryside were the nicest I'd ever met. That should have scared me more than it did. I moved there after my divorce, chasing the kind of quiet everyone talks about when life falls apart. I rented a small house on the edge of a rural community surrounded by farmland and woods. No streetlights. No sidewalks. Just a single road cutting through miles of land. On my first day, my neighbor showed up with food. An older couple brought a casserole. A man down the road helped carry boxes without being asked. A woman I'd never met knocked just to introduce herself and tell me I could borrow anything I needed. It felt rehearsed. But I ignored that thought. I wanted to believe I'd found a place where people still cared. The first strange thing happened my second night. I woke up around 3 a.m. to see headlights moving slowly past my bedroom window. Not speeding. Not stopping. Just rolling by at walking pace. I checked the road. No car. No engine sound. Just the smell of exhaust lingering in the air. The next morning, I asked the neighbor, the helpful one, if anyone drove around late at night. He smiled. "Oh yeah," he said. "We all do." That answer didn't make sense. He didn't explain further. Things escalated subtly. People started stopping by more often. Always friendly. Always polite. Always asking the same questions. "How are you sleeping?" "Getting used to the quiet." "You feel safe out here?" I began noticing patterns. No one locked their doors. No one had curtains. And at night, every single night, porch lights across the entire road turned off at exactly the same time. 10:17 p.m. I tested it once by staying up and watching. One by one, lights clicked off down the road until the darkness felt complete. Intentional. Like a signal. I started locking my doors. That's when the knocking began. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just soft taps at odd hours. When I checked the door, no one was there. But the next morning, my neighbors would smile knowingly. "Heard you moving around last night," one said. "I didn't see anyone," I replied. "That's normal," he said. "Takes time to adjust." I began sleeping with my bedroom light on. The dream started shortly after. I dreamed of standing in my living room while people watched me through the windows. Smiling. Patient. Waiting for me to do something wrong. I woke up one night to voices outside. Whispering. Not calling my name, discussing me. "He's still awake. Give it time." They always give in. I called the police. The dispatcher hesitated when I gave my address. "You live out past County Road 9, she asked. "Yes." A pause. "We don't patrol that area at night," she said. "Is there an emergency?" I told her I felt unsafe. She lowered her voice. "Lock your doors," she said. "And don't let them convince you it's normal." The line went dead. The next day, every neighbor stopped by. One after another. Smiling. Asking if I was okay. Asking if I'd slept well. No one mentioned the police. But they all seemed disappointed. That night, the knocking returned, louder this time. From the front door. Then the back. Then the windows. No urgency. No anger. Just persistence. I shouted for them to leave. The voices stopped. Then one voice spoke clearly from the darkness. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I packed a bag and tried to leave at dawn. My car wouldn't start. The road was blocked by a fallen tree that hadn't been there the night before. As I stood there, shaking, my neighbors emerged from their houses. Every single one of them. Smiling. They didn't surround me. They didn't threaten me. They just watched. The woman who brought the food on my first day stepped forward. "We don't hurt people," she said softly. "We just keep them." I asked what that meant. She tilted her head. "Some people belong here," she said. "The land chooses." I ran. Into the fields. Through the crops. Toward the woods. I heard footsteps behind me, unhurried. Confident. They knew the land. I tripped and fell into a shallow ditch. As I lay there, I realized something horrifying. The ground was warm. Breathing. Hands gripped my ankles. Not pulling. Holding. Waiting. When I woke up, I was back in my bed. House clean. Car working. Neighbors waving as I stepped outside. I don't know how long I stayed after that. Days? Weeks? I stopped trying to leave. The dream stopped. The knocking stopped. Now, when someone new moves in, I help carry their boxes. I bring food. I smile. And every night at 10:17, I turn off my porch light. Because this place doesn't like it when we don't agree.